Good morning, people of Earth. Yes, from, wow. I should start this like a Stuyvesant ad, because with Mbulelo traveling the country and doing this from the Otter Trail, it kind of makes it sexy and exciting. So, from our studios in Johannesburg to the various houses of various people in places that are exotic and interesting, all the way to the Tsitsikamma forest, where the mists rise from the trees and people run because nothing is chasing them. It is the Gareth Cliff Show this morning. Let's get cracking. We have lots to do. All right, so Mbulelo, as I said, is in the forest where he belongs. Leigh-Ann is in her house where she belongs.
Yeah.
And
everyone's in their place.
Everyone's
where they're
in
meant to
their
be.
place. This is perfect for someone with OCD like me, because everything has a place and there's a place for everything.
Yeah.
I get judgy. We'll catch up with Mbulelo in a second, and I'll tell you what else is on the menu for today. But I get so judgy of people. I saw somebody's desktop on their computer. You know that your kind of your page, the background, the icons, what's going on your screen. I was looking at someone's desktop the other day on their computer, and I was horrified. It looked like such a disorganized, chaotic mess. There was so much going on there. There's no way that person knew what was happening.
So this month, I can't remember which day of October, but it's towards the end of October, is actually Clean Up Your Digital Desktop Day. And it was obviously started by someone akin to, your way of thinking.
My future wife, that's who that started that. I'm telling you, if we track her down, we'll find out who I'm going to marry one day.
So there's something that my brother always freaks out about every time he has to look at my phone for some reason. And that's the number of messages I've got. So not WhatsApps, but just the normal messages.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, they're sitting at 300.
Oh, Jesus.
So that's when the little red icon's up. And you
can't do it.
But those little red icons are all over my phone desktop.
We have two colleagues who I refuse to use their laptop because there's 94 tabs open on the internet, and then their desktops are an absolute mess. But
name and shame them. I want to know who, because I have an inkling who they are. So yeah.
No, go ahead.
No. Should I guess? All right.
Yeah.
Who has a dirty, disorganized desktop? I would say Dory.
Absolutely. That one.
I would say Greg.
No, Greg's the opposite.
No, organized.
No, Greg is
because he's got so much going on, though, that I thought, well, not because he's disorganized, but because he's so busy. He would have 100 tabs open because every single one of them is important. Not like,
No. Greg's the opposite. He gets as anxious as I do with the two.
Well, so let me eliminate this way. It's not Spike.
No, definitely not.
He's super organized. It's not Rena. She's actually quite tidy. Could be Simpiwe.
It definitely is Simpiwe. And
you're naming and shaming Simpiwe again, Mbulelo.
Well, no, but
don't worry.
The fact
We got Dr.
I'm not being horrible.
We'll get Dr. Hanan to mediate again between them.
I'm not being horrible, but it is that. It's just
no, it's not horrible. It's just different strokes. I can't. Part of the reason I live on my own, and part of the reason that if you mess with my chi, my balance, my order, right, and I can't stand you if you do that with me for too long. I'm one of those people that I can't compromise in that respect. I can't compromise. If you are, even if it looks like you're disorganized, and listen, the point with I'm sure if Simpiwe comes on, she'll tell us, like, screw you guys, because I know where everything is.
Exactly.
I know she knows what's happening. You know, between her and Dory, then they're the ones that you're talking about. So they probably know exactly what's going on. I can't work like that though. I'll lose my mind.
Yeah.
Like if I had to send you a picture of my real life actual furniture piece of desktop right now, it's crazy. But at any point, I know where everything is, and it gets clean.
Do me a favor. Do me a favor after the show today. Just take like a stand on a chair and then take a picture of your desktop from the top down.
Do you not just want me to turn my camera around?
Well, okay. I mean, if that'll work, let's just see. Let's see what's going on over there.
Oh my God!
Oh,
no ways.
It's a beautiful window, by the way. I didn't realize. Oh, that's very pretty. What the hell is going on there?
Yes. Oh my gosh!
Is that a tampon? What is that there on the left?
What this?
Yeah. Oh,
it's an inhaler.
It's a big tampon.
A huge tampon. Like this size.
Yeah, that's huge. Jesus. That would be for good, you know.
But I know where everything is.
That would be for a woman with a large vagina.
Huge vagina.
All right,
enormous king size oyster.
Look, I was expecting worse. That's not the worst I've ever seen. It's really not the most.
Yeah.
terrible.
No, it's okay. I mean, it was last scrubbed up and cleaned on Tuesday, so it's not too bad.
It just brings me anxiety. It's anxiety inducing because you know I'm an extremist, so I always extrapolate what that means, and it's like, oh boy, you want to see me get unhappy is tardiness. Whoa, I don't do it.
But tardiness means lateness, right? That bothers you. I know that.
Or
bothers
just a looseness.
It's also,
I don't like looseness. I don't like loose. Like I'll just have. I don't like loose people who are casual. It's like. Ugh,
it's also the opposite of messiness is tardiness.
Let me show you how. Organized this is.
I got it.
All right. So
thanks,
are you ready?
Yeah.
So this is mine. So here's my laptop. Okay. Here's this is the desk. You just try and get that in there. There's an iPad all organized. On this side, there's a little tea tray. It's order. It's perfect order. Right? There's no disorder in my immediate surroundings because I actually can't concentrate. I mean, you've all been in the studio with me, and you've seen how I'll even line up my papers and if I have a pen lying there, it's lying at the same angle as the paper. Nothing is perpendicular. Everything is parallel.
Yeah.
I can't concentrate if it isn't like that. And the same goes for what's on your desktop of your computer. So I'm so glad that this little rant of mine coincides with what digital cleanup day or whatever.
Yeah, digital desktop. I'll look it up and let you know.
Yeah. Well, you see, we're reading the tea leaves. That's what's happening there. Simpuem Tetwa says, there is nothing on my desktop, but I am guilty of having thousands of tabs open. That is our own Simpue. See? I knew she'd stand up for herself. Good for you, Simpue.
You go, girl.
Sun Marie says, that's not so bad, Leigh-Ann, but yes, it's way too messy for me too. And then let's turn our attention quick. A clean desk is the sign of a sick mind, says Alex. How dare you? How dare you? It's going to be
that's awesome.
Really unbelievable. We're all good for OCD Anonymous, says Wendy. Yeah, Wendy, you sound like you could be in the same club as me. So probably
18th of October. Clean your virtual desktop day.
Okay, so it's still coming up. Woo! We're 10 days early. I can spend the next 10 days getting it even cleaner.
So that when the day comes around, you're not guilty of anything.
Listen, everything here, even though it looks like it's set up to look pretty, everything here is functional, right? At arm's length, I've got a thing of pens, and they're all the same pen, but there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pens that are exactly the same. I'll never run out of these pens. And they sit there and I can use them. I've got paper over here. I've got the mixing desk on this side. I've got the Comrex that connects us to the studio. I've got today's show on the iPad in front of me, got my little camera, got the laptop here with everything going on. It's got to be organized, otherwise I lose my mind.
My builder saw all of my mismatched pens and pencils and things, and he said, "Shoo, you don't trust your pens, eh?" But here we go. I can even tell you who set up or started or founded Virtual Desktop Day. Clean up yours.
All right.
Is the people at pcmuseum.ca. So it must be a Californian company. And they encourage people to sort out their desktops and return them to the pristine vision they received when they first booted up their computer. An orderly desktop has been said to be the sign of an orderly mind, someone who has their work together and knows what their tool is and what it's for and how to use it.
Well, the irony is if you go to pcmuseum.ca, it is Canada's #1 personal computer museum. I didn't know there were more than one. And then it says, the previous site is being archived and its static version will be back online soon. So you can't even go.
You see, they're so busy organizing things that they can't do life.
Yeah, exactly. They lost. It's hilarious. Oh, man.
That is great.
All right. So, Mbulelo, tell us what's been happening down there in the forest.
Not much. I mean, yesterday was kind of the race for sort of the middle sort of, I've got a job and I need to get out there and try and stay fit people. So it's called the challenge, and they all finished behind me here. About 200 of them finished in 11 hours. Then today's the qualifying for the apex creatures, the sort of the elite guys, and they race on Saturday. So they'll do something called the prologue, which I ran yesterday. So it's basically 3 kilometers. A mountain this size here, you basically just kind of run up through a forest for 3 kilometers to qualify, and then you stop that. And then Saturday, it's the big dance, and they're trying to do it in 4 hours, which is insane.
What are you qualifying for? Hell.
It's a beautiful view though behind you. So it looks like they run in under that entrance archway on a bridge, and you're over the swamp or something. Is that a swamp or a river or what is it?
Yeah. So this bridge, I mean, I can quickly just take you here.
Yeah, you show and tell today.
Show us your desk.
This bridge moves actually, and I don't know if you can see, but after about 41.5 kilometers, there's a 10-meter beam here that they have to go across. Otherwise, they're going to this freezing cold lake. Yeah, so as though it's not tough enough to run over a mountain for 42 k's. So it is incredible here. Hey, I'll send you a video in the break, Gareth, which you can share with people. Yeah. I mean, I was up on some of the most incredible trails yesterday. It's just been amazing. Hey? It's really, really amazing to be around super organized, super driven people. I love it. I love it. I haven't had the opportunity to be around them for a long time. So I'm in my element, as you said.
Sounds great.
It's cooking. It's cooking.
Oh, I had such a nice time last night. I fell asleep in the rain, which is just my favorite thing. And I woke up this morning and I was hoping it would still be raining, but it seems to have stopped at some point in the night.
It's still raining for me.
Oh, is it still coming down where you are?
Yeah. I mean, I'm always careful when I praise how wonderful the rain is after a full night of storming. Yeah. But I just hope everyone's okay, because I know it's lashed many provinces. So let's see, as everyone wakes up this morning, what damage has been done.
Oh, really? Was it quite violent? Because here at my house, it was like a light drizzle the whole time.
No, there were warnings ahead of time to, I think, 4 provinces to say, listen, guys, there's going to be flash flooding, lightning storms, etc. So let's hope everyone's cool.
Sindile says, Mbulelo is the Ilana Africa of trail running, as Ben said last week. I can't get over it. But it does, you do look like you're in your element there, actually. I haven't seen you this happy. And B says, happy Mbulelo. Yeah. You are. This is what you love, huh?
This is my life, yeah. I mean, if I could marry rich or win the lottery, I'd move to something like this and just be in this.
Well, that's a bit of a middle finger to everybody who says all you do is complain and criticize, because you can see how much Mbulelo loves this. So it's really, it's true for anybody. Find what they care about and you'll see the best version of them.
Oh, that's an awesome saying. That is an awesome saying. I haven't heard that one. That's so true. So true. I'm just at peace in this place. It's awesome.
Yeah, you seem very relaxed and happy. Count Dracos, I love that name. Also saying inspiring Mbulelo. Yeah, absolutely. That's true. So, all right, guys, a couple of things. First of all, I went for my first vaccination shot on Monday. I didn't make a big deal of it because it's not a big deal to me. It's just like, now that we're off the red list, apparently that happened last night. We've been taken off the British red list. So all those South Africans who are itching, who are desperate to go to grey, cold London just in time for winter. Lucky you. Get your tickets. Line up and get your tickets. South Africans everywhere like, oh, can't wait to go to London. So excited for you. So now you can go. But I went and got mine on Monday because I felt I needed to be ready in case travel opened up. I'll be honest with you, I felt absolutely fine. I felt nothing, absolutely fine. It was a little bit like someone had punched me for the first day and a half, but I didn't feel any other effects. I didn't have a headache. I didn't have any of the stuff. And I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday. He had a terrible time because he got COVID earlier this year and was man down for like 3 or 4 weeks. He was really struggling, and he's a healthy, fit individual. He's about 8 years younger than me, and it hit him hard. And then when he went for his vaccination, despite having had COVID, you have to. Some people think, well, you still have to get the vaccine. Well, actually, they figure out that natural immunity, or once you've got over COVID, having survived it, is way more effective at immunizing you than the vaccine would be. Anyway, he went for the vaccine, and he had a terrible reaction to it. He says it hit him so hard he was down another week. So it's just so bizarre how this thing affects different people. But the only reason I bring it up again is because it's become political, right? So these days, people ask you, have you been vaccinated yet? And if you say no, you can see them looking at you like, oh, this is an anti-vaxxer. Ah, I see. This person is one of those. He's, clearly a right-wing conspiracy theorist, Trump-supporting, gun-toting, insurrectionist. That's what they think of you. All of those things, right? That's what they think of you. If you just say, no, I haven't got this particular vaccine yet. Oh, well, you're probably the kind of person who wouldn't have got the polio or the measles and mumps and rubella vaccine either, aren't you? Like, no, that's really not what I'm like. I'm sorry that you've misread me so horribly. And then if you are among the other crowd, the crowd of those people I've just described, then they say, oh, you've fallen in with the herd, hey? You're one of the sheeple. So you just you just do what everybody tells you to do. You love government authority. You're falling for the crap. I can see you're one of those do as you're told, non-independent thinkers. And you're clearly just a complete loser. So either way, you're screwed. So I was like, you know what? I have always made up my own mind about everything. I'm not using this as a political thing. It's not important to me. It's not part of my identity. I'm not putting up a selfie of me in the frame going, I've been vaccinated, because that's boring as fuck. And I'm also not one of those people who's going to avoid the conversation if it does come up because I'm embarrassed that I've made a decision. Can we all just grow some balls, please? We'll just stand up for ourselves instead of worrying about what group we belong to for 5 minutes, please.
It's too much. Just in my mind, the two groups of people, and this is very controversial. Sorry, not sorry, but the two groups of people are clever and stupid, and let's move on.
Are they clever and stupid? Is that your opinion? So one group is clever and the other group is stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I couldn't disagree with you more. As someone who has occupied both groups, I think that's exactly the attitude that leads us into trouble. That's exactly the problem. What you've just said now is the problem. Because you think, well, only the vaccinated have their brains, right? The rest are fucking stupid. That's what you just said now. Now, I can't say the same. There are people with legitimate, because of attitudes like that.
Of course, there are people with legitimate reasons not to get it.
And also, and people who've got very sick, but you can't even talk about that. You can't even talk about the ones who've had it and got sick because you get banned from social media and you get called an anti-vaxxer and a conspiracy theorist. It's ridiculous. That attitude is going to lead to a lot of people getting very sick and not understanding and nobody talking about it. So we won't even be allowed to discuss it.
Look, I don't have massively strict opinions about it. I just think, oh my gosh, sorry, there's such lightning. And when you've got headphones on,
it's God.
It's God striking me down.
For saying some people are stupid and others are not.
Leigh-Ann, you've taken on the personality of like your cats. There's nothing lightning can do to you in your house. I love how...
Dude, I don't have the best streak of luck when it comes to lightning. I've had a few close calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, I don't want to dwell on this thing because, as I said, it's not an issue to me. I don't consider it part of my identity. But Michael says exactly a thing that a woman on the internet said yesterday. Why do the protected need to be protected from the unprotected by forcing the unprotected to use the protection that didn't protect the protected in the first place? And that's
agreed with all of it except for the last few words.
Well, there are a lot of people who think that unless everyone else is vaccinated, they're going to get sick, which means they don't believe that the vaccine worked for them. That's what he's saying.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, we'll leave that alone for a second. There's other stuff going on in the world that we need to be paying attention to. I told you I got one of those standing desks the other day. It's one of those. It's kind of on a set of it's almost like bicycle brakes that you've got underneath the desktop, and you move it up and down accordingly. And now during the day, I sit there and I do most of my work. Well, I stand there and I do most of my work, and I feel like it's improving my posture. I think it's been one of the best things I've bought. It allows me to be at just the right height for typing and for all these Zoom conferences and things that you're part of now, and meetings online. To me, it makes perfect sense. I can't believe it took me so long to get to this point.
Yeah, awesome. And you could even go one up and put it over a treadmill, and that's what I've seen people doing now. So they walk while they work. But I just don't know if I have the coordination for that. No,
I think the other problem with that is they huff and puff, and then you're like, no, please, I can't have I can't have someone eating during a meeting, and I also can't have you going on a run while you're in a meeting with me. Just concentrate on the meeting. You're not as
no, man, you stop before meetings.
Please, you're not as good a multitasker as you think you are.
More people need to hear what you just said. What you just said there is so incredibly important. More people need to stop. People are so terrible at focusing. Just do one thing at a time. Just do one thing at a time. It's like I mean, the most relatable example is when I go to a restaurant and the waiter doesn't write my order down. Like, I'm not impressed by that. I'm not impressed by the fact that you can remember my order. Just write it down. Write it down, and then we both, because when they eventually do bring it back and it's wrong, I saw Leigh-Ann going into cat mode there.
Yeah, she just went like a cat.
It's horrible.
Yeah,
I hate lightning so much.
So this thing about multitasking is women are clearly better at it than men, and most women can do two things at once, whereas most men, and this is perfectly, this is anecdotal through my experience,
and a huge generalization as well.
Of course, it is. But generally, women are able to, and I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it's because I've seen so many mothers who are driving, putting on lipstick, smacking the kids in the back seat, changing the radio, all that kind of shit, all at once. And I just marveled at this stuff because they didn't seem to miss a beat on any of it. Whereas
you're obviously referring to a mum from when we grew up.
Yeah,
on lipstick while she's driving and smacking the kids.
That was from
not today's moms.
No, not a chance. But men, like, I know for myself, if you want me to concentrate on what you're saying, I actually can't be doing anything else. You'll catch me out every time because I go, I'll look like I've been distracted,
I was doing some work last night at my mom's house, and she had ENCA on really loudly on the TV. she was talking to me at the same time, telling me a story, and I was typing an email. And at one point, I realized I could follow all three.
That's amazing. That is amazing. That's a superpower. I can't do that. Not a chance. Sometimes even when I read the comments on the show, I have to like stop and listen to you or Mbulelo or whoever else is on the show, because otherwise I'll miss out on what you're saying because I'm looking at the comments. So
we can tell you get this kind of glazed over look.
Yeah. I get this. All right. So Neil says he's got a standing desk and he uses it as a dop trolley. Neil Moodley. That's nice, Neil. At least that's kind of multitasking. You're making your desk stand into a multitasking stand. That's very clever.
I'm saving for one of those standing desks. I mean, like the whole wellness thing, it's got to be in your whole life, right? Like I know you on it now until December, but the standing desk now, the evidence is just compelling. Like if you really want to deal with a lot of the aches and pains you've got, we spend most of our time at work, right? You've got to.
You can't be sitting down. I mean, it's so bad for you. If you're sitting down the whole time, it's obviously bad for your posture. It's bad for your health. Blah blah blah. You've got to get your shit together. Be a little more organized and look after yourself.
A lot of the problem is having a laptop, because and the way I see it, a laptop is a head and a back. It represents your head and your back, the angle that it's at when you're using it.
I can't multitask, says Elon is God. Even something as simple as sending a voice note while driving, the car ends up on the side of the road. Yeah. Wendy says we can multitask. It's the multi-focus that we can't do. Yeah, that's probably true. Vince says, when I call my girlfriend, she can tell if I'm busy with something else. She says I'm not paying attention. You can even hear it in people's voice. Yeah, I agree with that. I can sometimes hear that too. My psychiatrist, says Carl, is a genius. He tells me all the time that humans cannot do two things at once. Leigh-Ann thinks she is, but she's not. She's doing one of those things well and the others badly.
It is actually it's actually a in terms of neurologically, that's a scientific fact, is that actually you can only do one thing at once. The human brain cannot do more than one thing at once. Even though it feels like you're doing it, you're constantly shutting off one thing, putting on another. You just don't realize it because you get so good at it. But it literally, the brain can only do one thing at a time. Because that's a hardwired fact. That's not me saying that. Yeah.
Well, thank goodness we've got people who can do more things at once, because otherwise we wouldn't have air traffic controllers.
Oh, well, Freedom Farter says, I think it depends on the tasks. I'm a drummer doing 4 things at once because I like it and I'm male. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Well, drummers absolutely, but there's a part of that that's not really, it's not cognitive. It's, the great drummers of the world, they don't think about where the drums are going the whole time. It's a feeling that just kicks in. It's almost
like driving. Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It's called entering. There's a term for it. It's called entering your flow state, where it feels like you're not working. And once you're in your flow state, it almost feels like you're not doing anything and you're almost floating. And once you enter that element, and once you master a craft, you see these great drummers and pilots and whatever, and whatever it may be, and archers and people like this. Once you enter your flow state, it almost you don't even feel that you're doing it, that you're so good at it. But there's so much happening. And a guy called Matt Walker, for people that are interested, he's in the neurosciences space, and he speaks about kind of like what does excellence mean neurologically, actually. So he's a really interesting guy, and he talks about all this stuff. For those
the flow state, I've heard so much about that. It's a very big thing in like Silicon Valley and all of that shit.
Yeah. So I just want to tell you about the flow state while I am sitting in a forest, by the way. The most electric words were said to me by somebody I'm working with here. She lives in a place called Greyton, which is actually closer to Cape Town, but it's very similar to where I am now, And there's literally a woman in Greyton who's a witch.
A witch?
Literally, yeah. No, literally, she's a witch, and she invites everybody over to kind of practice spells and have like those evenings. And I found it incredible when she was
She's a witch.
everything. Yeah, her name. Let me not say the lady's name because Grayton's tiny. But yeah,
well,
no,
because
she's a
people
witch.
will go and burn her because we still live. We're
No,
still quite.
when I lived in McGregor is actually Grayton's neighboring town, but there's no road that links us. It's just a mountain. You can walk it. It's a trail.
Yeah, I've run over the mountain both ways. It's an awesome trail. Yeah.
And we in McGregor knew of this lady in Grayton, so I know she exists.
You knew of the witch. That's
amazing. It's incredible, and it's just normal. Like, and the way she was talking about it, it wasn't like, "Oh my God, guys, I need to tell you something. There's a lady's a witch." No, she's like, "Yeah, no, there's this lady's a witch," and then I went and bought mangoes. I was like, "Whoa." Whoa, what do you mean?
You were like, sweet Heidi mangoes.
Yeah, I said, Lieber Hexie.
Hold on. I think it's from either Blackadder or from Monty Python, where the guy goes, 2 things should ye know about the wise woman. First, she is a woman. Second, she is wise.
It's Blackadder, and so Blackadder says to that guy, "He's like, oh, stop that nonsense. I'm a local. You don't have to talk like that."
I want to meet this witch.
Yeah, no, she's
an actual witch.
It's incredible. So
McGregor is fabulous, says Sweet Pea. Grayton is overrated. Okay.
Ooh.
I've never been to either.
There were those trains of thought.
Yeah.
The McGregor is still quite raw compared to Grayton. Grayton can be a little bit overdone in some people's opinions, but McGregor's like this raw, functioning little town. We had everything except a doctor.
Well, that's kind of important. Then it's not functioning if you don't have a doctor.
Well,
even ancient villages. I mean, even if you have a witch, you should have a doctor, for God's sake.
Just the one thing we were lacking. We had everything else.
So for those who haven't been to McGregor, like places like that, immediately, especially now, like I came through George for the first time, and I stayed in George for a couple of hours for the very first time ever. Immediately, my mind thought Devil's Door. Because, like small towny, that whole vibe, and everything I saw, I thought the devil lives here. And if he's not living here, he's certainly on his way.
Lawrence wants to know, does that witch have a crooked nose, warts, and a broom?
Of course. You can't be a witch without those.
You're not a real witch. You're a fake witch. Okay, some headlines. Let's look at what's going on in the headlines. First of all, New York's public library is going to eliminate all late fees. Thank God. I took out some books there back in, 2000. I've been worried. I've been worried the whole time. So its president, Anthony W. Marks, I don't know if I like that surname for a public institution. They said late fees were an ineffective way of encouraging people to return books. Under the old policy, cardholders who had over $15 in fines would have their cards blocked and access to the library revoked. The city's library collected over $3 million in fees in 2019 alone. New late fee charges were suspended in 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, but now they will be permanently eliminated. For those who can afford the fines, they're barely an incentive. For those who can't afford the fines, disproportionately low-income New Yorkers, they become a real barrier to access that we can no longer accept.
So what are they going to do? Just let people walk off with their books?
Exactly.
There has to be some kind of measure.
It's like this moron, this ignoramus that I interviewed, and we played out the interview yesterday. I got some really interesting reactions from people. If you didn't listen to it, Derica Purnell, she's a Harvard law graduate, a doctorate in law is what she's got. And she's got this idea that if we abolish the police, everything will be better. And it took me exactly 12 minutes to get her to realize she'd lost the argument and quit the interview. And you'll want to listen to this if you haven't heard it already. I mean, if this doesn't prove once and for all that these people have no idea, all they know is to break things, to destroy things, to change rules to suit themselves, but they have no idea what to replace it with. They never have any better vision of the future. Their vision of the future means destroy what we've got at the moment. It's what we call the Chesterton fence idea. If there's a fence built between two fields and someone comes along and goes, well, we've got to break that fence. The first thing anybody should ask is, have we found out why they built the fence in the first place? Because if we haven't, it would be stupid to break it for no good reason. And the same goes for the New York Public Library, because now what you're going to have is homeless people coming in, taking out a book, and then using it for fuel to make a fire. No, seriously, you're going to have, because this is what happens with people. We know what people are like. They're going to use it for fuel, and then they're not going to be charged a late fee. They're going to be allowed to come into the library 100 times, and some, good-natured, tree-hugging, diehard liberal at the counter of the New York Public Library, because who else would work at the counter of the New York Public Library, is going to go, oh, it's so lovely that homeless person comes in and keeps borrowing books by Jane Eyre. I mean, by what's her name? The author of Jane Eyre. One of the...
Daniel Steele, though. Daniel Steele, all-time love story writer. Jane Austen.
Jane Austen?
Jane Austen, yeah. No, that's so nice that homeless man keeps on borrowing these great English classics. Meanwhile, the homeless man's burning them for fuel outside. He's using them to warm his hands and his gloves with the fingers cut off. You know those ones?
Yeah.
I remember telling you about a store that had opened in my suburb where there was no one in attendance. You could just go in and put your money in the honesty box, or even just put in how much you thought it was worth.
Yeah.
And that irritated you, I remember.
It irritates me because people, they're dishonest. Like, you've got to have a very real sense of what humanity is. And I always vacillate between humans are great and they do great things on one side, and then humans are complete primal shitheads on the other. And they always do the wrong thing given an option. And you've got to be aware of the parameters. If you think humans are always good, you're going to get burnt really badly, and life is going to be very hard for you. And if you think humans are completely shit, you're going to be so cynical you'll never have a meaningful relationship, you'll never have joy, you'll never experience the best of life. You've got to have both.
It's why rules are so important, because if you leave it up to every individual how they feel, and it's something we've discussed a lot on here, and I know you kind of oscillate, Gareth, on this, and I've never got Leigh-Ann's take, that's why I always defer to rules. Objectivity is important so that we both know, right, what the middle ground is. But most people always, you often hear people say, I feel, like, oh, I say, no, I don't care how you feel. Let's come to the middle. Yeah, well, I really don't care how you feel.
So I'm glad that we're on this, because that was exactly the point with this Derricka Purnell woman yesterday. And please, if you haven't seen the interview, the actual interview is probably about 12 to 15 minutes. But I've added an addendum because I did so much fucking work preparing for this thing. I should have got a doctorate from Harvard for the amount of research that I did in order to, and honestly, this is to prepare for like a half-hour, 40-minute interview with somebody. And what ended up happening? She drops the call because she has no argument. I mean, listen, within the first 10 minutes, I could tell it was one of these. She is one of these people who's got ahead because guilt-complexed white people at Harvard University have seen a black woman who comes from a disadvantaged background or whatever, where she told the story about her mother, and they're like, well, let's give her a degree because that'll make her whole life better. What you're doing, first of all, you're patronizing her. You're not testing her to the limits that she should be tested. If she's going to get a degree from Harvard, she better be smart at arguing. She was not. And all you've done now is you've discredited her, embarrassingly, in an interview which is going to be on the internet forever. You've discredited everyone else with a doctorate in law from Harvard because they all sound as stupid as she is. And you've made a mockery of your institution. So congratulations. I know that what you intended to do was to make it look like Harvard is churning out female black graduates at a rate that they're not. All you've done in the end is made it harder for black people. Congratulations, you liberal whites at Harvard. You fucked up yet again.
Yeah, it is a pain point. I think the world is struggling with that, and I do see it in South Africa quite a bit. Where, so personally, I find it extremely insulting that you make it easier for black people.
Yeah, it's outrageously insulting, and those people are not your friends. If if you're a black person and you've ever encountered those kinds of white people, you know what you're dealing with. You're dealing with people where it's actually all about them.
Yeah, and again, I don't care. I don't care how you feel. We all need to go through the struggle of trying to find the balance. And the recent past of South Africa and the world is awful. Like the slavery things, that's an awful thing. And it's almost like people want to cheat time. Is that let's just deal with 400 years of angst. Let's deal with it in 20 years. Let's do it like that. Sorry, that's not the game. We're going to have to go through the friction of exactly what the middle is, and that's going to take some time. And the way to do it is not to lower the bar for black people. I get absolutely sick. And in fact, it's an interesting thing that you're bringing up there, Gareth. I can't wait to watch the interview when I get back. Is that, in fact, I've gotten to a point where, number one, I'm now anxious to actually hire middle-class black kids because they come with the attitude already that because I'm black, you're going to look after me and you're going to let me get away with stuff, right? Not this guy, not this guy here. Yeah. But another interesting thing is when I do hire black kids, I want to be very honest, right? I'm harder on black kids now than I would be on any other skin color. If you're black, I'm going to be extra hard on you because I need to, because already some of this entitlement, and I sense it, and I have to say, because it's only
but this is not on them. Mbulelo, this is not on them. It's not on them. They unfortunately, someone like this Derek Purnell, you could see she's never been put in a position where she had to challenge herself. She's never had to be better than this, because for the people who were pushing her and thought that they were doing her a favor, they never challenged her beyond her comfort zone. They never said to her, let's have an objective discussion about these things, which doesn't involve your feelings, because I don't want to put you in a position where you're stretched. You know, I would that it makes me feel guilty. So instead of her rising above her expectations or the expectations others have of her, she just stays here. And it's acceptable because, shame, we'll create a different set of standards for her. That's the worst kind of racism.
Well, so listen, for me, I've always, what do I always say to you? Everything's your fault. So everybody must take their part in whatever, right? Is that it is partly on her. I just want to say this, is that for me, is because she's never been disabused of these terrible ideas. And I see it in black middle-class kids coming through now from the private schools, exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm going to disabuse you of that because it's never happened for you before. I'm going to be the one to disabuse you of that. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Good luck with the rest of your black Twitter friends.
Well, when you say that, you see it gets a different reaction to when a white person says it. And because they can't really accuse you. They'll accuse you of racism. They'll say constantly. That. Well, what are you, Mbulelo? You're coconut. You're trying to be white or whatever,
captured.
Which is again comes from the same people, right? Anyway, let's just move on because this can go on forever and ever. A Pick n Pay customer was shocked after realizing he bought pies worth 495 Rand.
Oh.
Yes.
Was it not on purpose?
A Durban man was horrified after realizing he bought steak and kidney pies worth 495 Rand. Detailing the incident on his Facebook page, Kajal Rahman says he went to Pick n Pay on Tuesday and was shocked when he saw his till slip after purchasing his goodies. He only realized after. He bought 2 pies and only realized afterwards, for 495 is a lot for 2 pies. Genius.
They must have been enormous. They certainly weren't Mama's pies.
So it shows, the sticker shows that the 495 price is for 22 items, whereas this guy only wanted to buy 2. So that's hilarious. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we need Isabel Jones to rise from the dead and help us defend.
I went to Pick n Pay recently and I bought a yellow pepper, one single. It was the biggest yellow pepper I've ever seen in my life. And I just feed me for a week. So I go up to the till and the lady looks, she rings it up and weighs it. And she says, no. She says, this yellow pepper, it's 30 Rand. It's a waste of money. Please, please. Really? I ended up not buying it just to appease her.
Yeah. Just by the way, we mentioned earlier Jane Eyre. It's actually one of the Brontes. I think Charlotte Bronte. Someone's just corrected us.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking of, but I couldn't remember the name. There was Emily and Charlotte and one other one. 3 Bronte sisters. None of them, I don't think any of them ever had a happy relationship. Didn't they all stay spinsters until old age? Something like that.
Quite
Very
possibly.
sad. Yeah. These 3 spinsters all living together, crocheting or whatever it was that they did in those days. All right.
To me, that sounds fantastic, but yes.
So just check your prices on your items, I mean, I can't believe I have to say this to grown adults, but there we go.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, like potatoes have doubled in price since the beginning of the year. So things have changed. The world's changed.
It is, it's going to be Desmond Tutu's 90th birthday. 90.
I saw
90
all the
years.
celebrations yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was his
Not
birthday
yesterday.
yesterday. It was yesterday.
Yeah.
The jovial Tutu, who even today he speaks out against injustice, attended a special Thanksgiving service at St. George's Cathedral in Cape Town, where he was appointed South Africa's first Black Anglican Archbishop. He's, of course, a Nobel Prize winner, Peace Laureate. He's been dubbed the moral compass of the nation. And it started off the service with happy birthday. He was wearing his trademark purple shirt with white collar and a black suit. He waved in acknowledgement. He's in a wheelchair. He sat next to his wife, Leah. Tributes and well wishes for the revered anti-apartheid icon have poured in from presidents, individuals, and organizations around the globe. And he really has spoken out. This man is brave. He's spoken out against our own government when he thought that they were in the wrong. And he's spoken out against the previous government when he thought they were in the wrong. And he's spoken out against the powerful Chinese government when they wouldn't allow his friend, the Dalai Lama, in. He said that that was a moment where South Africa lost its moral capital. He's a brave man. He's an intelligent man. He's a heartfelt, warm, kind, thoughtful human being. And even though he's an old man now and doesn't really partake in much of the political dialogue or in much of the social intercourse in this country, he's still around. And we should be grateful that someone like him is there, because we are better with him than we would be without him. And
don't mess with my tutu.
At 90, I hope he has a few more years and a few more good years. Right. Okay. You want more, or is that enough in the headline space? I think we've probably got enough there.
Yeah. No,
No need.
I think we've done well there.
Yeah. Okay. That's that part done. We don't need to carry on. We've got someone called Dr. Alison Bentley who's going to join us later. She is a sleep expert and has been seeing patients, with sleep problems, both adults and children, on and off for the last 30 years. So we'll find out about the importance of sleep, the positive effect.
We can ask her about the sleeping Jesus.
We can find out what the results of not getting enough sleep are. Sleep apnea is an important part of that, Leigh-Ann, as you indicate. Also sleepwalking and the strange things people can do while they're sleepwalking, because she knows all about that too, as well as other sleeping disorders. So if you have any questions on that front, let us know.
She'll know about hypnagogia as well.
Yes.
Which is fascinating.
Yes. So this is interesting. A new study has revealed that the evolutionary reason why women feel colder than men is actually easy to understand, and Leigh-Ann Mole is going to help us understand this, because
I know the answer. Their hearts are cold. Women's hearts are cold.
Oh dear.
No, so apparently women they feel, even if they are, body temperatures with the same species, there's no reason why we should have different circulatory effects, but there is an evolutionary reason why women feel colder than men. And what is it? You're asking me, I don't know, but Leigh-Ann knows.
So it comes down to, and the way they've worked this out is, we know quite often you might be in an office scenario and a man's wearing short sleeves in the air-conditioned office, and you're like, where's my jersey? Or you always carry a jersey around with you.
Yes.
And it extends beyond humans. If you look at bats, birds, some mammals, the males prefer cooler places and the females prefer warmer places. And this sometimes evolutionary has a role to play in separating the sexes during breeding, different times of the season. When it's breeding season, they want them together, and when it's not, they're apart. So, for example, entire colonies of bats in a cave are composed of only males during the breeding season, and in the warmer areas you'll see only females. And the females are busy giving birth and raising their pups. Where do they want to be? In warmer environments. So it's got a lot to do with maternal instinct and reproduction. So
Mbulelo, the sun is right in my eyes here. I can't see because Mbulelo's like it's too warm for me.
I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to find an angle.
I can see the outline of your head and nothing else.
I am trying to find an angle. I'll fix it in the break so we can be professional.
Right. So basically, it's because women or females or mothers in particular want to keep their young warm, so they always feel a bit colder. So they're much more sensitive to cold. Is that it? You're on mute.
Oh boy.
No, Leigh-Ann, you're on mute.
And then I had to change windows, so it took a while. You don't want to have a mum who's running hot, thinking, "Oh my God, the baby must be so hot," and leaving it half dressed. So it makes very sense on a very basic level.
So yeah, I mean, I've often I've found that, like, especially in summer, it's first of all, I spend most nights sleeping on my own, so I can regulate my own temperature. But when I've slept with someone, she usually is colder than I am.
Yeah.
And maybe that also
her putting her cold feet on your legs.
Yeah, exactly. And that's maybe also why women always steal the blankets and you end up with none as a man. Right?
Don't know.
Sometimes this is very interesting.
This is interesting. This tells us a lot. Now, what happens, says Carl, with a woman who identifies as a man? Will she or he feel cold and warm? In 2021. That's exactly right, Carl. Yeah. Nonsense.
I reserve any comment.
I love that.
Lots of people commenting on the halo that was behind Mbulelo's head just now when we were talking about this women being colder than men thing. Someone saying you suddenly turned into Jesus.
Yes.
And you had a halo. Keep the sunrise. It's glorious, says Beth. Beth, go outside and see your own. You don't need it to be on the show.
Gareth, what the hell?
Go outside and see your own. Really, for God's sake.
Oh dear.
No. And then Michael saying, I knew there was actually a black man behind that blinding light.
Yeah.
Very good.
Here we go, Michael.
All right. So apart from the sleep expert, which is going to be the next hour of the show, we've also got Borge Meany, who's going to be joining us. Leigh-Ann's favorite. Borge, exactly. Our podcast of the week is actually about Borge, because on this week's Auto Central show, George Meany and his co-host Wandi Lasishi highlight some bad driving habits that have made a negative impact on your car's ability to survive the daily grind. So here are some interesting things. You can go and listen to the podcast. It's Auto Central. It's every Monday on cliffcentral.com at 9 a.m. or the podcast wherever you listen, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever. Auto Central, this week's episode, will help you highlight the bad driving habits that may have had a negative impact on your car. Right.
Good. Like crashing. Don't crash, basically. I'm pretty sure. Oh, no. Oh,
it's definitely the Rona. It's definitely the Rona.
My Lord.
Do you remember when we started this coronavirus malarkey last year in March? And Nicki Minaj was still going, coronavirus. No. Was Nicki Minaj, or was it?
No, it was the stripper lady. This was the stripper lady.
Was, yes. What's her goddamn name? Man?
The WAP lady, man.
WAP, that's right.
Well, no, what's her name? She sings this. Anyway, the stripper. Right. You know who I'm talking about. Ooh.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
What? Why are we struggling so much with her name?
Cardi B.
Cardi B. Jesus, how long did that take us?
We are so old.
We are so old. That's the problem.
We are so old.
Where is coronavirus? You remember I used to play it all the time.
Coronavirus.
That's it. Coronavirus.
That's it.
Yeah. And now you've got it. So it's come full circle.
Now I need to hear it. Here we go.
Coronavirus! Coronavirus! I'm telling you, shit is real. Shit is getting real. Guess what, bitch?
Coronavirus. I love it. All right, there she is. Cardi B. Why did I think it was Nicki? How horrible of me. Lots of people coming up with Cardi B, and then Elon as God says Cardiff B.
I think it was a typo, but I must say I enjoyed a comment earlier, which reduced the Hardy Boys to nothing with one typo, where she typed the Hardly Boys.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, any exciting plans for the weekend before we take a quick break? Anything exciting happening? Besides, obviously, Mbulelo is going to be at the Otter Trail until when do you come back? Monday.
Sunday evening. Yes, I'll be back in studio on Monday.
All right.
I'm starting a new job on Monday.
Ooh.
So I'm quite excited about that. I've had to do things like find something to wear that doesn't resemble shorts or sweats.
Right.
I'm going to have to fill up my car with petrol. Just all these normal things. Think about what to pack for it's a night shift. So what to pack for dinner.
What are you doing for work? Sorry. Is it the journalism job?
I haven't signed a contract yet. So all will be revealed once I've signed a contract. Okay. But it is going back to my roots, back into a newsroom. I'll be sub-editing. So it's exciting. I've got a passion for it.
But it's not going to interfere with you being on the show.
No.
That's all I care about.
I'm going to become a night owl, although I always have been.
Okay, no, that's good. Because, people get nervous. You say you got a new job and they're, Leigh-Ann's going to leave again. And they get separation anxiety.
No, it means I'll actually have 4 or 5 jobs, just a girl out there hustling.
That's right. Gig economy. Somebody says when we played Cardi B, we found the witch. Because that's how a witch sounds. That's so funny. Yeah. Lawrence says, Kelly, I have a small collection of occult books because Kelly says there are plenty of different witches out there, not just the cartoon kind. There are green witches, crystal witches, cottage or kitchen witches. What the hell is a cottage or kitchen witch?
What? They're actually what?
People trying to connect with nature and themselves.
What a lot of shit.
Yeah. Well said.
Corona's Boring admits that she or he stole the Hardly Boys from Trey Park. I think it's brilliant. Still.
Okay. I like it. All right. When we come back, we will do everything, including find out what you need to know about sleep. So we're going a sleep expert joining us in a short while. It doesn't mean you can fall asleep. It's Friday morning. The whole weekend is ahead of you. It's a lovely day. Mbulelo is in the Tsitsikamma forest. Leigh-Ann is at her dirty and messy desk. And I'm at my very organized desk, and we want to have you join us for the next hour. So don't go anywhere. CliffCentral.com. Good morning.
Some people want to forget all about the 80s. Some people would prefer not to remember the hairstyles, the movies, the fashion, those pants we used to wear. God, those pants we used to wear. Some people would prefer to never hear an 80s song ever again. We are not those people. That 80s show. Music, movies, obscure references, and so many unchecked factoids. Fridays, 9 a.m. on Cliff Central. People say we're stuck in the 80s. Like it's a bad thing.
Yo, I put it like wow, this that sound. These oaks don't work hard like me, I hope they know by now.
Good morning, cliffcentral.com on a Friday. We've got Mbulelo is in is it the Western Cape or the Eastern Cape? I can never figure out where that area is.
It's on the border, Western Cape. It's on the Western Cape side of the garden route. It kind of just starts that whole stretch, yeah.
All right. So as soon as you cross into the Eastern Cape, does everything suddenly become really shit?
Yes, I mean, I'm from there, and I spoke of objectivity. Yeah. Yes, the answer is yes. Once you hit sort of after you go past St. Francis, which is luckily you don't go past St. Francis. So Jeffreys Bay, terrible, terrible. From there onwards, it's just a closer gemors.
Well,
I love my
very
people, but
yeah,
I love my
people of the Eastern Cape. It's great, lovely. Stand up for yourselves. You don't have to tolerate this from Mbulelo. All right, a couple of things. We've got our sleep expert joining us in a short while. I'll tell you about her just now. But I got an email called Life in the Netherlands for Spoilt South Africans. It's from Amelia. Listen to this quickly. So she says, "Hey, Gareth, I'm enjoying the stories from your listeners regarding their life abroad. I thought I'd share mine with you and potentially help other South Africans to evaluate the decision of whether to move or to stay in SA. My husband and I moved to the Netherlands in November 2020 in the middle of a pandemic. My husband was presented with a work opportunity in Amsterdam and a full relocation package, including tax breaks and a 5-year EU residence permit. The opportunity has been wonderful and extreme learning curves for us both. You remember Amelia was on Collectomania. She collects those rosaries, remember?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So she says, what I've learned is that life as a middle-class suburban South African is, in my opinion, incomparable with the quality of life almost anywhere else in the world. And remember, she's moved around quite a lot. So
yes.
Yeah. She says, regardless of the criteria used to evaluate your reason for relocation, leaving South Africa should not be an emotional decision, especially if it's based on a crime incident or trauma. Leaving family and loved ones is very traumatic and should not be underestimated. I wanted to summarize some of the few other sacrifices we've had to make to locate to another country. We don't have a domestic worker. Cleaning is not for the faint-hearted. It is also time-consuming and needs to be built into your daily schedule. You know, that's something that we take for granted in this country because labor is cheap and also because people need work. And it's a way of creating employment for some people. And cleaning, as much as it sounds demeaning, and it isn't, because we actually spoke to Sneh on the show just the other day. Mbulelo, you were on the show with me when we spoke to Sneh, who lives in Ohio. And she's cleaning. She's actually a domestic worker. She's running 3 jobs, I think, at once, despite getting married to a dude in America. That's her job. And she says, you know, someone who's qualified, she's a graduate. That's what she does. She takes, she takes no nonsense from anybody when they come to judge her about her job. And neither should anyone in this country. But I digress, because as far as Amelia is concerned, we need to know that that's a major factor, not having a domestic worker. And in South Africa, most people can have a domestic worker. I know domestic workers who have domestic workers.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And as the meme says, I fired myself from cleaning my house because I didn't like my attitude and I got caught drinking on the job.
Beautiful. We also have a smaller home, she says. We left our beautiful South African home to move to a 90 square meter apartment. This has taken a large amount of adjustment, and it's a little depressing at times. Healthcare is another big one. Everyone gets the same healthcare, which is great until you actually need your doctor and you find yourself waiting in a system for an appointment. The private healthcare system in South Africa is, again, in my opinion, second to none in the world, especially when compared with the NHI-styled schemes like the Netherlands. Some of the benefits of relocation have been access. She says, we have awesome access to travel around the globe and it's relatively cheap. But she goes on with the list, and I just thought it was important to mention those things because we are interested in the answers to these questions, because many people are, we're global citizens now. And since travel has opened up again, you can go and live anywhere you want. Mbulelo, you've been all over the place. I mean, there's a reason that you choose to be here. There's a reason that some people choose to be there. So do what's right for you. I don't judge that anymore. And I certainly don't look down or look up when it comes to people who've decided to make a move. To me, it's just their decision. No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
But
I think to that global citizen message.
Yeah, and I think what's so important about Amelia's email is that she says, don't make a decision based on an incident or a traumatic experience or an emotional reason. Emotional reasons for that kind of decision are a very bad idea. It's all just
I think
emotional reasons for any decision are a bad idea. Especially the more important a decision is, be less emotional. Like people think it's so spontaneous I did it on a whim. No, that's a terrible thing. Then I don't want to hear you complain about outcomes.
Right.
It also sticks. The guy, his name eludes me, who we chatted to, who moved to New Zealand from South Africa 20 years ago. What stuck with me there was, you don't realize when you're moving as a young adult that the adults that you leave behind are going to get older. And at some point, especially now during coronavirus, as he's found, you can't get back home to those who are aged and, in ill health as easily.
No, that's a good point. Anyway, I just thought interesting email from Amelia, and thanks for sending that to us. And if you have a story that you'd like to share with us, either by email or if you'd like to join us in the show, like Caleb did with Dr. Hanan this week, we'd love to hear from you. Do that by sending me an email, contact@cliffcentral.com. We always reply to all the emails, so let us know what you're up to. Okay. We got, in a couple of minutes' time, we're going to speak to Dr. Alison Bentley. Now, let me just quickly give you a précis of where she comes from, because she's no schmo when it comes to this stuff. She ran the first diagnostic sleep laboratory in South Africa from 1990 to 1998. She's also the founding chairperson of who knew? There's a Sleep Society of South Africa. And
did they ever get anything done?
She founded it back in 1996 and served 2 terms representing Africa on the governing council of the World Association of Sleep Medicine. Her interest in research on sleep has seen her supervise more than 20 masters and 3 PhD students on various topics. She, of course, is a doctor herself. So we'll speak to Dr. Alison Bentley in a short while from now.
That's amazing. In the 90s, in the early 90s, when she started all of this, even still, there are so many people who are unaware of sleep apnea and having to sleep with a ventilator or a CPAP machine. There's so many people who are still unaware of how there are many insomnia sufferers. And in the 90s, those studies would have been quite edgy and not, as mainstream as they are now.
I mean, Leigh-Ann, take some credit. You have popularized the sleeping Jesus. You can take some of the cred for that. I think you deserve it.
Thank you.
We'll find out. We'll find out in a minute. There are a couple of things coming in here from people. I have a friend who moved to the UK, says Elon is God. He says he hates it. He hates the people. He says the people are shit and he has to clean his own house. I was shooketh. Okay. Carl is being his usual sarcastic self. I love this. I love the new theme of people sending emails of how shit it is in other countries. Makes me feel good for staying. Well, listen, to be fair, we also have received emails from people who are very happy that they've made a move. And I think it's stupid to go, well, it's 50%, or it's 80-20 or whatever, because it doesn't matter. It's all about you, your own personal experience of it. And if your personal experience is a good one and you've made the move, then you're going to have a great reason to feel very comfortable and confident about your move. However, if you feel you made the wrong move, you're going to be feeling shit about it. So that's up to you.
The only people that I will not tolerate or take anything of, it's like, once you go, like there was a time where I was like kind of bitter, and it does, it was obviously racialized a little bit in South Africa, and I kind of, but then as I've gotten older, the only people I won't take anything off is, once you leave, you must leave. Like, enjoy your new country. I don't like the throw stones back over the pond, right? Look how I was right and you guys are living in okay, fine, enjoy the UK. Okay, we stayed, those of us that stayed and choose to be here are here, is enjoy the UK. Stop talking about how terrible South Africa is. Enjoy the UK. Now we're open to feedback. Like
Yeah,
our
sure.
listeners give, where they go, yeah, where South Africa could get better is boom, boom, boom. But enough of the I'm in the UK one, what a shit all South Africa is anyway. Yeah, like come on.
Isn't that just the same as someone who breaks up with somebody and then all they can do is talk about their ex, even though they keep pretending that they're happy about their new relationship, but they're still obsessed with their ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, no, well said. That's a great analogy. I think everyone can understand.
Lots of people like that. Leigh-Ann, you're on mute.
Jeez.
What's going on with you today?
No,
I don't know.
New job. It's a hard time. There was lightning earlier, Leigh-Ann. See, I'm more empathetic today.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
she's
on your side.
She's skittish.
Got a lot going on. I've got a good story about cheating spouses and exes. So tell me when you're ready for that.
Let's go.
Absolutely. I'm always ready for that.
Expert in, go.
So this guy who had a girlfriend, the girlfriend went away for a while and then came back with a new boyfriend and decided that this was her new boyfriend and moved in with him.
Hold on. Start again. I'm already confused.
Okay.
Who?
So there was a guy who had a girlfriend. The girlfriend went on a work trip.
Okay.
She then messaged him to say, pack your stuff and get lost. I'm coming back with a new boyfriend. I'm done.
Wow.
All right.
Okay. So obviously he was disappointed. But he decided to take revenge and he prepared a living hell for them in this house for just $100.
What did he do?
He bought 20 of these little gadgets online. They're called noisemakers. They're little gadgets that emit these annoying sounds, and he hid them all over the house. This grew into, you won't believe how this actually grew into something so big. So some of them, they emit sounds at just the right volume that you're not quite sure if you really heard it. So you might be sitting in the room with your new boyfriend. One might hear it, the other can barely hear it. They last for absolutely ages with a little battery in them. They fit into light fixtures and wall outlets. This guy hid them all over the house, in her car, even in a boat that her father got her. He says they were a rich family that grew up sailing. They say they make these noises at random intervals. So it could be minutes, could be hours, or it could take a whole day off. Some of the noises they make is like children laughing, like a rattle, a death rattle, like a dying breath. A whistle. Some of them are scratching noises.
Oh my God.
Completely unpredictable. So you can't figure them out. So he says, months go by, I get a new place, get my life back up. Now we had a few friends in common. One of them I kept up with. They were kind of sour about how she ended things, but they'd grown up together and kept up the friendship anyway, loosely catching up and talking. He says, I never really asked about her, but one day we get to talking and he's wanting to prank some friends on a camping trip. So I tell him about the noisemakers. As I'm telling him about them, he slowly starts making this face like he's gradually losing his shit. He's got this huge grin on his face and says, did you put these in your ex's house? Because when he admits it, he starts laughing hysterically. Turns out that the new boyfriend only lasted a few months. He left saying he couldn't handle whatever it was going on with them and their mental states. For a while, they both heard the things together and then only one would hear them. So this gave them the illusion that something was really messed up and going on in their heads at different times. So eventually he left completely. And he said he believed that he'd been infected with some brain worm that the government was putting in vaccines or something like that.
Let me tell you, this will drive you crazy. If what you're describing, because I looked up noisemaker, they're tiny little things that essentially have one of those flat batteries in them. And in fact, if you go onto Amazon, you can find them. So it comes in a little plastic bag, probably, like one of those very, very tiny sandwich bags. But inside it's got a little battery, one of those CR2032 batteries, those flat ones. like a watch battery almost. And then it's got a little speaker. And you could basically hide this thing anywhere. It's got a super long battery life.
Yes.
And it won't stop making this noise. But with the noises you were describing, Leigh-Ann, I mean, if this was sewn into the bottom of a curtain or it was hidden behind, a picture on a wall or underneath the mattress of a bed, you could find pretty bizarre places to hide these things. People would think they were going crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, eventually she moved out. She told her parents she didn't want the house. Just give it to my brother, she said, or sell it, but didn't tell them why. So,
I want to buy some.
He says that his current wife knows the story by heart, and it's her favorite one to tell.
God, that's amazing.
I mean, that is incredible.
So the sounds, I mean, if you've got like children laughing, that would be spooky as hell. Imagine
like
you're falling asleep
death rattle.
And it doesn't come on. Apparently, it comes on at random. That's what you were saying, right? So
for every few minutes, maybe a day or two.
It's totally at random. So for 3 days, you don't hear anything, and then suddenly, in the middle of the night, you hear like,
oh my God!
Yeah, that's next level, like petty, right? Is for me. I've always thought I've always thought if I ever was to get heartbroken, I'd do that kind of thing. Like I'd steal like the tin opener, the back of her earrings. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff that'll be inconvenient at the moment where you need it. But this guy's taken it to a whole nother level. Jeez,
yeah, it's big.
Wow.
It's a little bit worse than sewing. It's a little bit worse than sewing salmon into the curtain hems.
And it's long lasting too. It's not going to. Apparently, these batteries can last for months and months and months, and you just won't even know. I mean, it's just so twisted.
Yeah.
Again, move on. Like you were saying, if you're gonna move to another country, then stop talking about your old relationship. If you're going to break up with someone, break up with them. Don't be so petty and nasty and bitter that you try and ruin their life with a noisemaker. I didn't even know these things existed until now.
Jeez, it's actually making me anxious, that type of pettiness. Like, wow, this guy really thought about this.
What would be the worst sound to come out of that?
Definitely children laughing, and maybe like a little melody that plays when you open up a jewelry box. Ding 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 ding.
Like cricket. What about a cricket sound? Had like a cricket on your window.
Have you ever tried to find? Yeah, oh God, that drives me crazy. You say cricket's a good one, but but I think it would be funny if it was farts. You're lying in bed at night, or you switch off you switch off the TV and you leave your TV room, and then suddenly in the corner of the TV room there's like like, oh shit. And if you don't know, like what I would do is buy them, and then I'd put them in the spare bedroom at my house and just see what happens.
I would actually, if they came in fart noises, I would buy that pack of 20, get someone to hide them in my house just for my own pleasure, and laugh all day. Yeah.
But in that case, like, especially because it was at levels where only she could hear it or he could hear it, or sometimes you'd start accusing your partner of farting now, and you know how that could be like that would be.
I wonder if you'd actually, because you know how the mind works, right? You might even, if you hear farts the whole time, you might even start smelling them, even though they don't exist. Yeah. You know how our senses try to complete the picture for us, so you suddenly start smelling farts, even though they weren't there.
Or as Michael calls them, fartegeists.
Oh man. So if you want to get hold of us, or you have an interesting idea for the show, you've got something that you want to tell us about, some feedback about how irritating we are, whatever it is that you want to tell us, contact at cliffcentral.com. We love all the feedback, whether it's good or bad or ugly. And I know I sometimes react badly to these things, but it's still fun. And you can rile me up very easily if you send me an email like that. But also, if you've got suggestions around people that you want on the show or subjects that you'd like covered, you can let us know too. Contact at cliffcentral.com.
So something I want to tell you that happened when I arrived here. So there's there's a hotshot paddler here. I'm not going to tell you his name because he might get famous one day. So he's like big time, like 5-star athlete. And I was sitting with him. He looks like if you imagine what you think Julio Iglesias would have looked like at 21, like heartthrob, that
fantastic.
skin, the hair, perfect, and whatever athlete. Right. And as I landed and we were having supper the first night here, he was talking about how he's breaking up with this chick on Monday. And he's 21, so he's just been like, yeah, no, I'm over her. I've moved on in life, whatever. Like he's 21, like whatever. But what I loved is that he's already decided that, no, and he's telling everyone, bro, on Monday I'm breaking up with her. Like it's over. I'm just over her. So he's just like announcing it to everybody at the dinner table. And we started throwing in some suggestions. I said he should like break up with her via email just to see what his responses would be. It's electric to see how the mind of a 21-year-old works. And I think to myself, oh, was I like this? Because he's like, bro, I'm over. Guys, what do you guys think? I'm breaking up with her on Monday. I'm over her anyway. Plus, I've already got another chick, he says. I said, oh, get him.
Well, this is a good discussion to get into, and maybe we've got a little bit of time before we're joined by Alison. But a friend of mine and his girlfriend, who's also a friend of mine, broke up or had an argument the other day. And now it's changed the whole energy because... Yeah, where we would have maybe been seeing each other this weekend, now you have to tread carefully. Like she's not talking to him or he's not talking to her, and there's stuff, and I don't want to choose between the two of them because I like them both. They're both entertaining and interesting people. Known them both for a while. So it becomes an admin issue. Now you have to second guess yourself every communication you send because I have a feeling they'll end up back together again. But in the meantime, you got to tread very carefully, if you know what I mean. It's just
I've been here before, but
it's like two nations are at war, and you don't want to choose which nation you're on the side of because if they start bombing each other, suddenly you'll find yourself in the firing line.
I have strong thoughts, but I'd like to hear what Leigh-Ann's got to say.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Now is not the time to say to the one partner, "Oh, I just never liked him anyway or her anyway."
Yeah.
Because there is a big chance they'll get back together.
Terrible.
Yeah.
What do you say?
But who did you know first? Did you meet her through him or him through her?
Her through him.
Then I mean, for me, that simplifies it as in so in my mind, I'm just telling you how my mind works. She's got to go, but Leigh-Ann's nailed it. I once made this mistake, right? I once helped out a mate of mine. Oh, I'm breaking up with her, bro. Like, yes, I'm over her or whatever. And he listens to the show, so he will give us maybe feedback. Is that I said to him, bro, I've never really liked that chick anywhere, like whatever, and I was on his side. It's the boys. Does he not pitch up with her at the Braai on like the Saturday? I'm talking about he's telling me this on Wednesday at my house, crying about how
problem.
Pitches up with her. Here's the best part to exactly what Leigh-Ann's wisdom just now. Now, after we were friends for since I was 5, so let's call it like 20 years, maybe more, 26 years or something like that, lots of years, beyond 2 decades. Now, because obviously he went and told her, it's why I don't trust people in relationships. And I have a rule. I'm never friends with my mates' girlfriends. I refuse to see your girlfriend without you or your wife without you. I'll never be friends again because of this incident. Now, we no longer, this guy, we cease to be friends because she told him after he told her what I said about her. And then it ended a relationship of like 25 years. And I know he listens to this show, so.
Oh, man. That's not good.
Never again. I will never comment like that. And my rule always, whoever I've known the longest, the other person's got to go, which is why I told you earlier, I like rules. I'm not going to get emotional about it.
You shouldn't have to choose. You shouldn't have to
life.
choose.
No, life is you have to choose. In life, you have to choose.
It's not true. If your parents get divorced, that doesn't mean you have to hate one of them and love the other one. Bullshit.
No, but no. That's an extent. No, come on. We have to exercise some existentialism there. That's a whole different thing. I'm saying because friends, you choose. Family, you don't choose. That's why you don't get to choose mom and dad. With friends, you've chosen to have friends, so you do choose, and you can choose, and you have to choose. Actually, if you try and make both happy, Gareth, what happens? You're going to go to the one. What did he say about me?
No. It is also a choice to not get involved in other people's internecine battles. You know, I don't have to enmesh myself in your relationship. I can take a back seat and go, all right, well, you guys figure it out. I'm not choosing either of you. I'm not going to give either of you an advantage, and don't come and moan to me about each other. And when you figured your shit out, then we'll see, because I'm quite prepared to be friends with both of you.
But are you going to have a hard and fast rule to say, when I'm with you, you're not allowed to talk about her?
You can't have hard and fast rules with relationships. This is why you're miserable and single.
No, but I'm saying, so I'm saying, what happens when she wants to say what a bastard he is? Because you know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen.
Then you stop her. You stop her in her tracks. You go, listen, please remember that I am not involved in your relationship, and I don't wish to be. So stop talking like that now. That's for him to hear. That's not for me to hear.
Sounds nice in theory, Gareth. I look forward to seeing how this unpacks for you. I'm really looking forward to this idyllic world you've created.
So when I got divorced, my best friend and his best friend were married. They were a couple. So that was interesting times, because she was consoling me through the hard times.
Oof.
In the meantime, having him for dinner, you know, at the house.
Yeah.
So that was really a very interesting dynamic. Do we have time for me to give you an update on the Gabby Petito case?
I'd like to go to Alison Bentley. We'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Okay.
Alison Bentley is someone who's been seeing patients with sleep problems, both adults and children, on and off for the last 30 years. She is not only someone who has seen through 20 masters, 3 PhD students on various topics. She was also the person who ran the first diagnostic sleep laboratory in South Africa. That was all the way from 1990 to 1998. She's the founding chairperson of the Sleep Society. Alison, we laughed about the Sleep Society. We hope that no one nods off in the Sleep Society meetings. And we also, I'm reliably informed that you are, among other things, a real genius in the medical world. People have a huge estimation of you. They said that you're a professor of physiology too, and a medical research expert. It's a great pleasure to have you on the show this morning. Thanks for making time to be with us. Alison, can you hear us? I don't know that she can hear us. Simpiwe, while we're busy sorting that out, won't you just speak to Alison and see if she can hear us properly? I'm going to get her on as quickly as possible. Got lots to talk to her about. And sleep is a big deal. I mean, think about how many hours of your life you spend sleeping. If you don't do it properly, look, let's do a game drive with Mbulelo quickly.
We were amongst nature here. I don't know if you can see what's going on over here.
I thought you'd gone for a pee, because suddenly the camera picked up on me.
No. But see where my finger is there?
What is it?
It's a
monkey.
Oh, cute. Oh.
Yeah, living his best life, eating a banana. Good for him.
that he's stolen from the humans.
That's it. The shitheads.
All right. While we're trying to get Alison on, I'm going to ask Simpiwe to just sort that out quickly for us. So, Leigh-Ann, just give us an update, because someone said in the comments that the Petito case is. Thank you for. Here we go. It's Amelia. She says, "Thank you for getting me hooked in the Petito case. How come this guy has not been caught yet?"
That's dirty laundry. Brian Laundrie, still on the run. It's now got into the spot where the bounty hunter, who's very well known in America, Dog the bounty hunter. He's that guy with really long gray hair, and he wears like leather jackets and studs and things. He looks very weathered. He's actually on the case as well now, and throwing out clues which are putting people off track and that sort of thing. So yes, still searching for him. His parents have actually come out now and said, okay, we're going to join the search. We're going to help find him. There was one, so last night I dreamt, speaking of sleep and perhaps meshing the two stories together, I dreamed that Brian Laundrie was caught. And if you look at the photographs of him now, he's this very clean cut guy with short hair and skinny. And when I was in my mind watching him being caught by the police, he was bloated and had this bright red hair and enormous beard. It was just so bizarre. But yeah, no, they're still looking for him. He's still on the run, and he's probably the most hated person in America right now. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brian Laundrie may look a bit creepy and odd, but Dog the Bounty Hunter looks even worse. All right, let's try again.
Crazy looking.
See if we can get Alison on here. Dr. Alison Bentley, can you hear us? No.
Oh, no.
Still struggling here. I don't know what's going on.
Yes.
Oh, there we are.
So, hang on.
Oh, no.
Yes,
now she's
hopefully you can hear me now.
Dr. Bentley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can, and hopefully you can hear me as well.
Oh, good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm very well.
Excellent.
And yourself?
Excellent. So we've been talking endlessly about sleep over the last couple of years on this show because it's something that it seems people are suddenly interested in. We spend, just about half our lives sleeping, and yet we don't take it very seriously. It's something you've taken seriously for years, something you've helped other people to research. So tell us quickly about your kind of experience as a whole over so many years of studying sleep, paying attention to the positive effects of sleep. Tell us why it matters and why this is an area of study that we should all be paying attention to and how it affects us all.
Okay, sure. I mean, I can't tell you that I went into sleep and sleep medicine because of some, big drive to do sleep. I got into it accidentally, really, because I was trying to avoid something else. And but once I got into sleep and started reading about it, it's endlessly fascinating. And there's just so many things that keep getting added on. So, I mean, 30 years later, we're doing a lot more different than we were doing originally in the kind of early 90s. I mean, when we started doing sleep recordings, we were doing them on paper and pen, and we'd end up, with 1.5 kilometers of paper at the end of the night, with endless pens getting stuck and ink all over the place and a complete mess, purely because at that time there wasn't enough movable space on a computer to store an entire sleep study. And so then we moved. We could then, so you could do it on a computer, do it on a laptop, but then you need another laptop the next night. So, and then, we had stiffy drives, and then we've gone to optical discs, and then we've gradually gone up, and now we're in a situation where you can store a sleep study on a little itty bitty USB drive. So it's very strange to have kind of gone that whole process, but also to have engaged with a thing about sleep is it's something that everybody does. So it's not like lead poisoning that you kind of go, I have no way of interacting with that. I can't identify with that. Everybody sleeps. And it is also something that I never tell anybody that I do. Okay, I just don't. So in any kind of situation, they say, what do you do? Depends. I often go, I'm a lecturer in postgraduate neurophysiology, okay, because I've had that life too. So I kind of do that because it's pretty much a conversation stopper. Because if I say that I do sleep medicine, oh, well, here's my theory, here's my dreams, here's my whatever. You do dream analysis. But I think the big thing that's moved in 30 years is that when we started diagnosing sleep apnea and insomnia in the 1990s, it was like, oh, okay, fascinating. So what? And we did have conversations within that sleep society. It was like, we've got to find a way this kills you. Otherwise, no one's going to take it seriously. And so fortunately or unfortunately, we now know that sleep apnea, if it's untreated and severe, is going to kill you. So that's... I don't know whether that's good news or not, but it's good news for sleep medicine.
It makes it urgent. And I think for many people, unless something is urgent, as you rightly point out, they just don't pay any attention to it. Now, Leigh-Ann, who's on the show with us this morning, she has sleep apnea, and she has one of those devices. Yeah, we call it her sleeping Jesus, and she connects herself up to it every night. And otherwise,
it's a lifesaver.
She did.
Yeah. Changed everything for me.
Yeah.
So what do we know about the sleep apnea, and can you perhaps help us to understand it from a medical point of view, precisely what's going on? And there are probably many people in the whole world, many people who are listening to us this morning, who don't even know that they suffer from this.
Well, they wouldn't unless they have a spouse who complains about it at night. But you wouldn't know about it because basically, for most sleep disorders, you go to sleep, wake up the next morning. And certainly for sleep apnea, the key thing is you wake up in the morning and you feel trashed. You feel as though you've been run over by a bus, and you don't you don't get that refreshment that you normally feel from sleep. Unfortunately, what a lot of people do is put that down to work stress, I don't know, burnout, just lifestyle kind of things. They kind of go, I'm tired in the morning and I'm tired during the day. So they put it down to something else, whereas it is often sleep apnea or another sleep disorder, because there are other disorders that also kind of create that. But what's happening is it's essentially, so when I get down to my kind of kitchen physiology, it's kind of a sense that you have a hose pipe, which is the throat, which is the tube at the back of your throat here, but past your nose and past the back of your tongue. You have this tube. And so it's like having a hose pipe that you switch on. And so that water is moving through that thing. And then suddenly somebody stands on the hose. And so they obstruct the hose. That's why it's called obstructive sleep apnea. And then they lift their foot off the hose and the air moves, and then they put their foot down and so on. And that obstruction occurs because of the physics and anatomy of that area. And that is, you have that area is designed to close, but only when you swallow. But now it's closing when you breathe. And so you only have one tube for breathing and swallowing, which is a bit of a design fault there. And so one tube, and it's designed to close. So the palate is designed to close at the back when you swallow, so food doesn't go up your nose. So that's designed to swallow. The tongue and the jaw is designed to go back when you start swallowing. So all of those, it's an area that can move. And so what it's not supposed to do is move when you breathe. So that's the key thing. And so obstructive sleep apnea then is when this happens when you're trying to breathe at night when you're asleep. Always starts with snoring. Yeah. So snoring is kind of the entry drug to sleep apnea, as I call it. Mm-hmm. It's the entry drug to sleep apnea. So there's very rare that you would get somebody with sleep apnea who's never snored. That's just not how it works. And snoring is a partial obstruction, and then the sleep apnea is a total or near total. Certainly enough obstruction to wake the brain. Because the brain, when that thing obstructs, the brain is in a situation where it kind of goes, you got to wake up or die. Like, that's your option. And so it will wake up every single time, which is a great thing in the middle of the night. But it's a problem in the next morning when you've woken up, depending on how bad your sleep apnea is, but 200 or 300 times a night. So then you suffer those consequences.
Go ahead, Leigh-Ann.
Yeah, for me, I think it's every 60 seconds or every 30 seconds that it was happening for me. And then, interestingly enough, there's so many chronic diseases associated with it as well. And that for me was where sleep studies and people who study sleep finally gained the credibility that they deserved all along. Now cardiologists and pulmonologists were getting on board as well and saying, okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. It's all connected.
Yes. So that's the cardiovascular effects. I mean, we have really good data that says things like, if you have atrial fibrillation, which is quite a common disorder where the heart is kind of not beating properly, there's a little kind of flutter in it. So atrial fibrillation, if you have atrial fibrillation, one of the ways of fixing that is a cardiac ablation. So basically kind of go and zap your heart a little bit in a good way. So what we know is that if you have that ablation and you don't have sleep apnea, then the chances of the atrial fibrillation coming back is about 30%. But if you have untreated sleep apnea, the chance of that atrial fibrillation coming back is like 70%. So it's doubled. So we know that if you have sleep apnea, we also know that, if you look at the numbers, just the numbers of people who have sleep apnea. So there was an article in the Lancet that did a big modeling study on predicting how many people in each country would have sleep apnea. And in South Africa, it's moderate to severe apnea is over 20%. So 1/5 of the adults in this country are likely to have sleep apnea. Now we know that it increases your risk of hypertension, of atrial fibrillation, of any kind of arrhythmia, of stroke, of all of those kind of things. And despite COVID, cardiovascular disease is still the number one killer. I mean, it's still the number one reason why people die. And so we've got this kind of little secret thing that's going on at night called sleep apnea, which people don't know is happening, but is actually, and it's interesting because what happens in sleep apnea, it goes through exactly the same mechanisms as cardiovascular disease and diabetes, in fact. So if you take type 2 diabetes, about half of them have sleep apnea. And then what the sleep apnea does is change the way that the fat cell works. So it doesn't work normally. And so if you are obese and you're trying to lose weight, but you have sleep apnea, you're kind of fighting a losing battle because you don't even know what the battle is because the battle's changed. So it's really it's a very systematic disease and actually affects a whole lot of things.
So, Dr. Bentley, I mean, I'm very aware of how little time we have to cover such a broad range of subject matter. But how much sleep do you think we need? I hear all kinds of numbers being thrown out by people.
Mm-hmm.
Churchill famously used to say, 7 hours of sleep is enough for a woman, 6 for a man, and 8 for a fool. So how many hours are we meant to have?
Well, it's interesting because, every patient who comes to see me and I say, how much sleep do you need? They'll go 7 to 8 hours. And I go, where'd you get that from? And they go, Google. Okay. So certainly every book will say you need to get 7 to 8 hours. But there's a bit of confusion about that because they kind of go, that's normal. It's not normal. It's the average. Okay. So if you take 10,000 people, the average will be 7 to 8 hours. I see a lot of people who are genetically programmed to get less than that. So 4 hours, 5 hours of sleep, and are battling to get that 7 to 8 hours. And once they realize they don't have to get 7 to 8 hours, they don't have insomnia anymore because they're actually getting the right amount of sleep. They mainly suffer from boredom. Like, what do I do with all this extra time? I kind of go, I'm not your entertainment specialist. I'm not sitting here telling you what to do. Okay. But so that kind of thing. I mean, I have a patient who sleeps 2 hours a night, and every night, and that's all she ever sleeps. And she only has ever slept that amount. The key thing about how much sleep do you need is it's the minimum you can get away with and still have good daytime function. So when people say, oh, you treat sleep disorders, I kind of go, no, I treat daytime function, okay? Because that's the key thing, is to improve daytime function. So I don't care how many hours you sleep, as long as you are awake during the day. Does it
matter if your sleep is broken up? In other words, if you have a nap in the afternoon or you sleep for 2 hours, then you wake up and you go back to sleep again, or is it important that it's a single block of sleep?
No, that's a tricky question, because I think it is important that we have a solid block. But in the 1500s, we used to have 2 solid blocks. So English literature would tell us that basically when you came home from the fields, for example, you would wash, you would have tea, so that's sandwich and tea, and then you'd go to bed because you were tired. But then you'd wake up in the middle of the night, have an extended period awake during the night when everyone would get together. It was a communal thing. And then you'd go back to sleep for your second piece. So certainly sleep is kind of cut into core sleep, which is the first 3 or 4 hours, and then the rest of sleep. There is a 24-hour requirement for sleep. If you have 2 hours nap during the day, that's going to come off your nighttime sleep. Usually it comes off there. But if you have so I think there's a point where you can fragment into 2 or 3 pieces. But once you fragment more than that, it stops being restorative. So, for example, we know that patients in ICU, for example, have terrible sleep. If you look at their sleep, they have the same amount total sleep per day that other people would have. The problem is they have it all day. So they're having a nap here and a nap there during the day. 50% of their sleep is during the day and 50% is at night. So I think there's a line where too many interruptions start to impact the sleep.
This is the thing I'm very curious about. I'm going to hand over to Mbulelo and Leigh-Ann, because sometimes I ask the questions that no one's interested in. But in this case, I'm really curious about what sleep does. What is the purpose of it for our brain? Is it just a time for the brain to file things, to store memories, to figure things out? Or is it a time for everything to reset, to settle into a state of kind of calm and to be able to exit the conscious world for long enough for you to be able to sort out any physiological problems?
Yeah, so I think there was the sense very much that sleep was an opt-out. It was kind of like you just opted out and you rested. But actually what we know now is that everything is extremely active when you're asleep, and there is a purpose. There's a lot of stuff going on when you're asleep, and we certainly don't know it all. But some of the things that happen, for example, is as an adult, all the growth hormone that you produce during the day is produced in the first hour of sleep. And from that runs down the somatomedins and statins and all of that kind of thing, which doesn't necessarily cause us to grow right now, but causes us to repair. So there's a physical repair that happens at night. In the brain, so certainly in REM sleep, the dreams are about there is a big consolidation of memory that happens during sleep, not only during REM sleep. So the thing about sleep, the thing about memories is you input during the day, and at night you consolidate, and so that the next day you can recall. And if you interfere with sleep, you interfere with memories. And so people often have a problem with keep holding on to memories or hardwiring memories. So memory is definitely a thing there. During REM sleep, what happens is we have a special lymphatic system in the brain called the glymphatic system. And during REM sleep, literally the brain gets flushed. So there's a flushing of liquid that goes between the cells. And what it does is take out all the rubbish. Remember that brain cells cannot regenerate. So they cannot regenerate. They cannot make new ones. That's all you got. And so if you don't clear the rubbish out, then it's going to accumulate. And so it's one of the theories of Alzheimer's and the other dementias is that there's not enough of this clearing out that happens during REM sleep. So somehow REM sleep is compromised. There's not enough flushing out. So things start to accumulate. And the one that we know about is the accumulation of protein in Alzheimer's, for example. So there's a lot of that flushing out during REM sleep is incredibly important to keep the brain, like if you didn't have Pick It Up at your house. I mean, think about it. Pick It Up never arrived at your house, what your house would look like. That's exactly the same thing that happens in the brain at night. So it's really important.
Mbulelo, I know you're brimming over with questions. You go ahead.
Dr. Bentley, an absolute honor to meet you. I mean, your work's incredible. What I wanted to ask you was, I'm obsessed with sort of high performance, and it's been something for me trying to sort of get my circadian rhythm right over the last sort of 3 or 4 years after seeing a sleep expert. I just wanted to kind of get your take on whether determining when we sleep, when we achieve REM and all of those cycles, whether we can actually know when we'll be most productive in the day from any evidence through knowing when, and I recently got introduced about 2 years ago to something called your temperature minimum, which if the evidence I've read, it tells you actually when you're going to be most productive between 4 and 6 hours later, I believe is the window. Perhaps I'm wrong, but I'd just like to know if you're interested in performance, how important is it to sort of regulate your circadian rhythm? And is it possible to reset your circadian rhythm so that you are sleeping better to perform better? Is basically where I am in my life, and I'd like to know your thoughts.
Okay, so usually whether you're a lark or an owl is kind of preset, and so you will always have a natural tendency. A lot of people are in the middle, so if we look at sleep time, 10 going to bed at 10, waking up at 6. I'm an owl, so I can stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, sleep till 8 easily. Other people are larks. They're usually farmers, so they go to sleep at 9 or 8, and then they get up at 4. Happily get up at 4. I've never experienced that in my life, so I cannot happily get up before 7. And so that is kind of set. Okay, so you have that, and depending on whether you're a lark or an owl, you will have, and that's driven by melatonin and driven by your body temperature. So your body temperature goes down at about the time that you feel the sleepiest, that it's the easiest for you to fall asleep. That's your body temperature, driven by melatonin, which is produced about an hour and a half before that. So that's how the system works. So there is a preset kind of tendency, right? So if you're an owl, there's no question the best time for you to work is in the evening. So I went through med school, the whole way through med school, and people saying, you must get up at 4 and study because that's the best time to study. And I would wake up at 4, and I'd wake up at 4:05 and 4:10 and 4:15, and it just didn't work. But I can study till 2 o'clock in the morning. And they would go, no, you can't do that. It's the wrong thing. And I was going, but it's right for me. Do you know what I'm saying? So everybody has their own kind of thing that works for them. If you're a lark, then you are most productive in the morning. And so that morning slot is the most productive for you. So my daughter's a lark. By the time I get up on a Saturday, she has been to the gym for an hour, made a smoothie, had a shower, and she's ready to go. And I'm like just waking up. But then she's super productive. But then come the evening, she's like 9 o'clock, I'm out, I'm in bed. Okay. And I'm kind of going, but I've just started working. I've just hold out the laptop and I'm starting to work then. So there is that kind of natural tendency. Can you change it? Yes, you can with melatonin. You will find that you kind of have to keep on taking melatonin. You have to keep on changing your natural circadian rhythm, because the minute you stop taking it, you're going to go back to your kind of genetic tendency. So you can't really change that. Does that make sense?
No, very interesting.
And you guys all have messed circadian rhythms, by the way. Every kind of radio person on the planet has messed circadian rhythms because you work stupid hours and insist, go to your body and go, sleep here. And sometimes your body goes, oh, hell no.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got used to how it feels to be up
Yeah.
early, even though I'm like you, I'm an owl. I mean, I used to work late into the night. Now I realize I start feeling guilty somewhere around midnight because I'm not asleep yet, and I go, oh well, I've only got to calculate. I've got 6 hours, blah blah blah. And as you said, that's almost a self-imposed insomnia. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Dr. Bentley, it's such a pleasure to have you on, and I'm so grateful for your time this morning. I'd love to talk to you again at some point. It's fascinating stuff, and we've only just scratched the surface this morning, but I'd love to have you back at some point and discuss some more of this. People love it. The comments are just rolling in from people who want to ask you all kinds of things. Obviously, we can find out more from the work that you've done. I didn't even know there was a Sleep Society of South Africa. I feel embarrassed about that, but we joked.
No.
We joked that you guys all get together with your sleeping bags and your sleep societies that you just fall asleep.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
I know.
I didn't join.
So,
because I
so
heard
we
you're
changed
all
it.
a
So we don't
Smurf.
call it we don't call
Yeah.
it a sleep society anymore. So now it's called the South African Society for Sleep and Health. That's what it's about.
Very, very good. Well, thank you for being with us this morning. I'm going
It's a great
to
pleasure.
say goodbye to you, and maybe we can all just figure it out a little bit more carefully how we can get the maximum amount of sleep and the maximum amount of good
It's
out of
important to
sleep.
get.
Hugely. Thank you so much, Alison Bentley, joining us this morning, and she's absolutely the foremost expert in this subject matter. I mean, we really we could have carried on talking to her for hours.
Yeah,
and hours.
absolutely. Yeah.
Good questions all round, and I'm sorry we didn't get to answering all of them. I did try to throw a few of them in. We'll see if we can get her back at some point. But right now it is time for Borge. Here he is, George Meany.
Hi,
Hey,
Borge.
George.
Morning. How's it, Leigh-Ann?
What's going on, George?
Well, that was very fascinating discussion, Gareth. I mean, I was listening intently because I, like Mbulelo, I try and be the most productive you can, and sleep is one of the big things that make you productive. And she was echoing that exact sentiment. So it's very interesting that there are different kinds of people that need different kinds of sleep at different kinds of times. So you got to, I suppose, figure it out for yourself.
Well, I mean, I didn't even know that there were larks and owls. I just expected that people should all have the same kind of pattern, but that some of us just prefer mornings and some of us just prefer nights. Turns out that there are two distinct classes of people when it comes to that stuff. So, yes. George, what's on your agenda this morning?
So different classes of people or different kinds of people, we just released the EV Buyers Survey. AutoTrader just released the EV Buyers Survey. If you go to reports.autotrader.co.za, you can go and download the latest EV Buyers Survey. So we did the same thing last year. We surveyed almost 3,000 people, asked a bunch of questions to try and get the sentiment for appetite for electric vehicles in the country. And last year gave us what I would assume or say is a baseline. We then did an update to that EV Buyer Survey at the beginning of this year. We did a very small sample set, but now in the last couple of weeks we've done a new full-on EV Buyer Survey. And it turns out, Gareth, that nothing much has changed. Now, you might think to yourself, well, it's the same people filling in the forms, etc. That is absolutely categorically untrue. We got 2,800 respondents. And if you think about visitors to AutoTrader's website, this year's visitors are going to be very different to last year's visitors in the main because people don't change cars every year. Okay, so that means that this particular survey is a very different set of consumers versus last year's survey. But the results are almost identical, which gives me comfort that you can read into this electric vehicle buyers survey and get some value out of it. And the stark reality is that the three things in the market still exist when it comes to mass consumer adoption. The most important thing is people want a car under 500,000 rand. And that came through in the last survey last year as well, and in the interim survey at the beginning of this year. The second thing is they want faster charging times, and there's still an element of range anxiety. The faster charging times and the range anxiety, the range anxiety and the want for faster charging times have come down slightly by a couple of %. And that, I think, is because we're all preaching the message EVs and educating consumers around EVs. And I'm living with an EV, so I'm trying to kind of tell the truth of the matter. And there's some challenges, but it's very encouraging to see that the results are very similar to last year.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, listen, we know electric vehicles are a big thing, but there seems also to be a bit of a propaganda swing going on here. Like there's a huge amount of money and marketing that's being thrown at EVs, and I'm just wondering if petrol heads, the people who like the original combustion engines, whether those people aren't getting a bit annoyed by all of the EV propaganda.
They probably are, but I don't think they're going to win in the end of the day. You know, it's going to take a long time. So you're going to be your petrol head, and you're going to be able to drive your noisy car for the next 10, 15 years. But I think this is a reality, Gareth, and that's you know, whether it be propaganda or not, at the end of the day, the consumer is going to choose. And
all right.
you know, however long that takes, it takes that long. So, but you know, it's encouraging to see that the results are the same. And I think we've got a way to go as a country. We need to actually get our A into G very quickly.
Okay. All right. What else is happening? We'll go and check out that report, but what else can you tell us?
So Rolls-Royce, you would think that Rolls-Royce has a very older, more affluent demographic. And
Sure.
it turns out that Rolls-Royce has just put out a study that shows that Rolls-Royce has the youngest age demographic across the entire BMW, Mini, and Rolls-Royce family. The average age of a Rolls-Royce buyer is actually 43 years old.
And that's young compared to Mini and BMW.
Yes.
So
compared to
who are these 43-year-olds, and how do I marry their sisters or whatever?
No.
Don't know, Mbulelo, but they do come out of China and the United States mostly. So you're in the wrong country.
Jesus, that's amazing. They're the youngest. Who would have guessed? Just shows you how this research works. It's incredible. All right.
It's unbelievable. But and then a police in California stopped a Tesla driver. Well, he wasn't driving. The car was on autopilot, and he was drunk out of his mind. And this car was driving on its own, and the police realized what was happening, and they actually stopped the car by, you know, trying to slow it down, driving in front of it, boxing it in, and they eventually stopped the car. And this guy was drunk out of his mind, and the car was driving him somewhere. They still don't know where the car was going.
That is crazy.
This is going to be happening more and more as we get these self-driving cars and drunk people get into the passenger seat or whatever, and they say, "Oh, drive me home." It's going to happen. And how do police respond to that? Because the driver may be relying on the car, and the car may be able to more or less do a good job. Certainly, it depends on human factors as well. But who do we arrest? And if we arrest the driver, but they're not driving and the car's doing most of the work, you know, do we take Tesla to court?
Well, I think in any situation, the person that made the decision to push the button, self-driving, is the person responsible. That's what I would think.
Okay.
You decided to push the button, self-drive, and or autonomous driving, and you knew you were drunk. You knew you couldn't drive the car, or you went to sleep. So I think it's still the driver's responsibility. But in this instance, it's raised two questions by the police. The one is, how do we get the OEMs to have a hotline of some sort where we can tell them, please switch off this car, please make it park, so that Tesla can effectively go and push a button somewhere, and that car safely turns off and goes to the side of the road and stands still. So that's been the one question that's been raised by the authorities, and the other question is safety, as you point out, Gareth, is what happens in the end when somebody gets hurt.
Somewhere a choice has to be made. If we're going to make the driver who presses the button responsible, then we can't have Tesla interfering and pressing their own button, because that can lead to all kinds of trouble too. You know, what if you've got a perfectly sober and sensible individual, but Tesla, for some reason, through data that they're getting from their car, decides that someone is driving irresponsibly, and they press a button, and suddenly your car won't do what you want it to do, pulls over to the side of the road, and you've done nothing wrong.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think those are all valid arguments, and it's things that the world needs to grapple with.
Okay.
But on a dumber note, there is a bridge in Cape Town. There is a bridge in Muizenberg in Cape Town that is aptly called Bridget. Okay, and this bridge apparently is only 2.5 meters in height, and has about one truck crashing into it every month.
Wow.
That is crazy. I
And
actually lived there for a while, and I can't picture where that is.
If you're driving, I think towards Cape Town. So if you're driving towards the harbour, because I know I've obviously looked at where this bridge is based on the story today, but it's a metal bridge. If you Google Bridget and the Muizenberg famous truck eating bridge, you'll see this bridge. It's a metal bridge. And apparently people don't learn that the sign of 2.5 meters high means the bridge is 2.5 meters high and it ain't going anywhere.
Or are we not thinking after the 28th crash, we could maybe just lift the bridge to 3.2 meters, George? Well, what are we up to here as a country?
Yeah, correct.
So authorities, people have said, well, why don't you dig under the bridge and make the road lower? But apparently the bridge is at sea level. So doing that would mean that if it heavy rains, floods, that kind of thing, it would dam up, and that would be a problem. So Bridget is standing, and people keep crashing into the bloody thing.
I see it now. And when you see it in writing, it's actually hilarious. Bridget, the truck-eating bridge with trucks stuck underneath.
I love that it's got a name. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. There we go.
And then very finally, Gareth, this is a freaky story. 3Ann's going to love this story. There was a teenager in Egypt whose number plate predicted the date and time of his death.
Oh. Ooh.
So his number plate was CIA-9-25-9. And he died on the 25th of September at 9:00.
Oh my God. Well, coincidence. even a wrong clock is right twice a day.
That's true.
So, I don't know.
And apparently there is, if you go and Google it, there is a scientific calculator that if you're of a certain age and older, this calculator online can go and predict your death. So
please don't give us the URL. I'll get obsessed. I'll be Googling and entering birth dates and checking on people I know, checking on myself, making updates the whole time. It's not a good idea. This is a terrible idea. Do not go to this website, please, George. Don't give anybody a URL.
I won't. All
right, everybody. That's all we got time for this morning. Thank you very much. And we will see you on Monday. Have a good weekend.